Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, the one God to whom praises are due forever, the Lord of the worlds. We thank him for his many blessings, and we are taught from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan that the greatest of God's blessings is revelation that he extends to the human family through the mouth of his prophets. We thank him for Moses and the Old Testament, for Jesus and the New Testament, and for Muhammad and the Holy Quran. Peace be upon these worthy servants of Allah. I am a student of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and I could never thank Allah enough for his divine intervention in our affairs in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, the great Mahdi, who has come among us. He found one among us worthy for him to lay a weighty word, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, his messenger Messiah. And we thank them both because they didn't leave us comfortless. Most of us don't know Master Farad Muhammad. We weren't around, or if we were, we didn't understand the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. They did not leave us comfortless, but they gave us a champion who is shaking up the world, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Let me once again give you the greetings of peace. Assalamu alaikum. How's everyone this morning? I'm fine as well, giving thanks. Praise to Almighty God, Allah. Would you be so kind? Let's give Brother Andre a round of applause for his opening remarks. You know, it's not always easy to talk to you. We don't know all of the challenges you may have faced on your way to this house. Then you get here and some brother on the front or some sister said, we got to check you. You say, well, I'm not going to Mexico or Spain, I'm trying to go to a meeting, you know. And all of the things that you are confronted with. You walk in the building and somebody say, no, come this way, come over here. No, sit right here. They're instructing you all the way through. So sometimes, you know, and then you look around and you don't see a band and you don't see the choir. You're like, well, wait, what kind of place is this? Then the sisters on one side and the brothers on another side. You don't know what to think when you come to this house. But all of these things are done for your and my safety. It is done that we may hear a weighty word. Sometimes when we come to a house of God and they're singing music and stuff, we think that that's the Spirit of God, but it's just good music. And we may miss a word that will transform our lives and make us better human beings. So we don't have music. We have the music of the Word of God. We don't have those things, and you won't hear us, I don't want to be disrespectful, but hooping, if you will. Because the Word of God should be sufficient. You intelligent people, you know truth when you hear it. And so if we can put you in a situation or create an atmosphere where you are allowed to hear truth unhindered, then you would agree with truth when you hear it. You're an intelligent person. So we ask you, as they say in school, put your thinking cap on and listen to the truth as it comes. Again, I stand here as the representative of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And I said to you that he has shaken up the world. Now, sometimes what we think is shaken up is not shaken up. You ever seen a fighter get hit and he actually hurt? The fighter that gets hit and hurt, he don't say, ooh, he starts smiling. And the opponent knows when he starts smiling, I got you. He's trying to mask the reality that the punch really hurt him. So he acts like, no, you didn't really hurt me. But at the same time, he's backing up all the time. You and I are in a fight for our lives. And there's a community that does not want to see us free. You have admitted that we are not free. Would you agree with that? That we are not free. And as we turn to be free, someone is there at every turn. Now the big controversy is Minister Farrakhan hate Jews. This is what they say. It's not true. But because we don't control the media, we don't always have the opportunity to argue our case. So we thank you for being here. Because of social media, we can get the word out to others who are sitting home or wherever they are. They can hear the case just as you are hearing the case. So we are on a series called The Prison of Anti-Semitism. This is the subject that we are on, the prison of anti-Semitism. But today we're going into part 2. And part 2 deals with the controversy. I just can't believe all the things people say. Controversy. Is Farrakhan straight or gay? Controversy. And usually the people who control the media give us these straw man arguments and say that Minister Farrakhan said what he didn't say. He did what he didn't do. And then they put that on us and we walk away believing that it's true. Now, if he said what they said and did what they say he did, then maybe their outrage would be warranted. But the truth is he didn't say what they said and he didn't do what they said he did. So we're going to go through this, and we want to set the stage by giving some scriptures of the Quran. The Quran says that they desire to put the light of Allah with their mouth. And Allah will allow nothing but the perfection of his light, though the polytheists or the disbelievers are adverse. Now, the light of God always is revealed through a human being. God's books don't write themselves. There's no such thing. Come on, brothers and sisters. Where some lightning come down and hit a stone and some words of thou shalt not kill. Come on, y'all. That's cinema. The light of God is always housed in a human being. So when they desire to put out God's light, they are looking for the human being who possesses that light. I submit to you, and I'm going to try to make this plain today, the man on the scene that possesses the light of God is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Praise be to Allah. So we open our book Quran and it says, this book, there is no doubt in it. It is from Allah. This book, but books don't write themselves. Books come from the mind of human beings. So you could say this book, but you could also say this man. There is no doubt. Because how could a perfect word come through an imperfect human being? Then it goes on to say that the hypocrites fear lest a chapter should be sent down concerning them, telling plainly of what is in their hearts. Say, go on, mark, and surely Allah will bring to light what you fear and what you hide. They fear, and they only thrive when a chapter is not revealed. Their fear is always that a chapter will be sent down. See, the liar always afraid that somebody's going to come and expose the truth. Look at your president. I don't have to say no more, right? His fear is that the truth will come out of all that he has done. That's his fear. So now, Minister Farrakhan goes on tour, and they say anytime that Farrakhan is on the road speaking to groups, we, who is the we, are afraid those ideas are going to spread. Anytime he speaks, we are going to check him because we are afraid that what's in his mind will get in someone else's mind and they will carry out what's in his mind. Who is the we? It is the Southern Poverty Law Center, the ADL, the JDL, the Anti-Defamation League of Brene Brown, who are afraid. What are they afraid of? That his idea was spread. What is his idea? Is that we shouldn't beg others to do for us what we should do for ourselves. His idea is that we should stop killing one another. Why would you be afraid of such an idea? unless you make money off of our ignorance. So I hope you will bear with your brother. When you say controversy, how it started, you can't rush those things. We are a people who've been told that the devil is in the details. That's what they said to us, that the devil is in the details. But I heard my brother, Dr. Wesley Muhammad, say, no, that's not actually not true. He said that God and truth is in the details. And the reason that the devil is successful is because he conveniently omits details. For example, praises are due to Allah. He takes out details. For example, instant mashed potatoes. There's one problem with that instant mashed potatoes. Ain't no potato in instant mashed potatoes. So they leave out a convenient detail that there's no mashed potato in here. And you go back and read the back of the label. If it's mashed potatoes, I've made mashed potatoes. Potatoes, butter, little milk. Go and read the back of your instant mashed potatoes and see what it says. Sodium glutamate, benzoylulolite. You're like, what the hell is all this stuff? Potato substance or potato-like something. No potatoes in instant potatoes. So, how did it start? How did we get here? What happened? Is Minister Farrakhan crazy as they say he is? How did it all start? We're going to set up the history now. We got to start with the history. A people without knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. It's Marcus Garvey. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, history is best qualified and most attractive to reward our research. If you and I don't know what was, we're not going to know what is. And then we will be ill prepared for the future. We all right? Yes, sir. So how many remember Nat Turner and the insurrection of Nat Turner? I think that was in Southampton, Virginia, something like that. Something like that. Well, there was this senator in Southampton, Virginia, named Henry Berry. And in Southampton, Virginia, after this insurrection, they were upset over what took place with this Nat Turner fella. And they said they wanted to pass more laws to stop these insurrections. Mr. Berry gets up and says, you can pass as severe laws as you will to keep these unfortunate creatures in ignorance. It is in vain unless you can extinguish that spark of intellect which God had given them. There ain't no law going to change this unless you can go further than that and extinguish from them the natural thing that God gives. It's like trying to teach a child not to walk. You don't tell the child to walk. There's something in him that causes him to pull up on things and begin to walk. He said, can a man be among free men and not want to be free himself? He said, can a man feel that he has the power to assert his liberty and not do it? In other words, we are men. And if I believe I'm a man, would not I stand up and protect my family? Unless you can make me believe I'm not a man. And I call myself a boy. But if I believe I'm a man, at some point, I'm going to stand up and defend my family. Because that's what a man does. He said, Mr. Berry, now he said, we have as far as possible closed every avenue by which light may enter their minds. He said, we have only one step further to go to extinguish the capacity to see the light, and our work would be completed. They would then be reduced to the level of beasts of the field, and we will be saved. it is not enough to deny us the right to read, but they want to deny you the ability to see truth when truth comes to you, because they want to create human beings that will be on the level of beasts. See? Every avenue by which light. So it was illegal to read. You couldn't go to school. It was illegal to teach you. Right or wrong now? This is what they said. So he said, then we would be safe, because until we can do that, we will have these insurrections over and over again. Because the black man is not going to just lay there and be a slave. There will always be somebody that will come among them and to try to raise them up. We okay? Yes, so light. We have light. Every avenue of light. Remember now, light or the word of God always comes through a human being. So every leader that will come among us, they will sift to see who it was. They will check and see. Did you know? We're coming into Christmas now. On the plantation, they would have drinking contests among the slaves to see who could hold the most liquor. Why would the slave master do that? Because as long as you drunk, you can't run away. You're too drunk to run. And he would keep us that way, but he would make it a macho thing. See, so when I was growing up, they would say things like, if you kind of stagger, you don't know how to hold your liquor. It was a thing of pride that you could drink and drive or do all of these things because this is from slavery. But I didn't know that's what it was. They said put hair on your chest and all this kind of stuff. Y'all heard the same thing? Oh, okay, wait. So everything was about drinking. If you got married, here's a drink. If you got divorced, let's go get a drink. You get a job, let's go get a drink. Ma'am, I got fired, let's go get a drink. I got a child, let's get a drink. My wife left me, let's get a drink. Everything revolved around something that would never allow us to develop or realize our own full potential. We okay? So they gave us these teachings. They gave us preachers that said, love your enemy. If they take your hat, give them your coat also. How many of y'all saw the Nat Turner movie just a minute ago? Didn't they send Nat to do that? To teach, to obey your master. Don't rise up. But Nat saw something else in the scriptures. So I can't give you the controversy without the history. There's a commonality in all that they did. See, it's this self-help. That anytime you want to do for you, you become the enemy. As long as you want to do for them, that's okay. So you can get a uniform and go fight for them. That's fine. You're a hero. But you can't go in the hood and fight for yourself. Now you are a black extremist. So Marcus Garvey, our brother, 1922. Marcus Garvey led the largest black self-help movement in the history of America. Marcus Garvey lit America up and our people up, the UNIA, with the mantra, up you mighty people. You can accomplish what you will. Whatever you want to do, you could do. They end up calling Marcus Garvey an anti-Semite. Now wait a minute. Stop. Don't they say you should pull yourself up by your own bootstrap? Isn't that how they teach us? Don't they say you should for yourself? Don't they talk to us like that? Yeah. Clean up your own community. What's wrong with what Marcus Garvey said? Up, black people, you could do whatever you want to do. And they say, if I can see it, I can achieve it. Don't they talk to us like that? I believe I can fly, but you can't clean up your own neighborhood. And because Marcus Garvey said you could accomplish what you will, they called him anti-Semitic. And then Mr. Joel Spingard, who is the board of chairman of the NAACP, who happens to be Jewish, he began a Garvey Must Go campaign. Now, Joel Spingard, they have a Spingard Award right now at the NAACP. Joel Spingard, chairman of the NAACP, taught the NAACP to use what is called non-economic liberalism. Non-economic liberalism means when you build but you don't money. So you got to always beg somebody else for money. If you want to have a march, they got to sponsor your march. Did you hear what I said? Yes, somebody else sponsors your march. You want to have a jazz festival, Cool Cigarettes got to sponsor your jazz festival. Somebody else is always sponsoring your programs. And whoever pays the piper what? So he taught the NAACP to don't worry about economics. So the NAACP, and I'm telling you the truth, they done a lot of good, but they wanted to go sit at a lunch counter so you could get a hamburger from somebody that didn't like you. Which one of you would go to a restaurant and get a hamburger from somebody with a damn KKK hood on? I'm just asking a question. He gonna make a special burger for you, right? It's gonna have a special sauce on that burger, right? Joel Spingard led a Garvey Must Go campaign. Joel Spingard, what he got to do with what you and I want to do? The campaign led to the arrest of false charges of Marcus Garvey. There's nothing wrong with up, you mighty people, you can accomplish what you will. Unless you try to accomplish what you will. Now, I want to go into this because remember they say, y'all gonna go back to Africa. See, when we say we want separate territory, y'all niggas can go back to Africa. But Marcus Garvey was buying the ships to go. What? They should have funded the thing since they wanted us to go, but they stopped the man. Only they say, here, I got some money on that. What you gonna do, Garvey? Y'all going back to Africa? Here's $100 on that. But they stopped him, which meant something else is going on that they don't want you to know. Remember, the truth is in what? The details. So they prosecuted Garvey with a Jewish district attorney. Did you hear what I said? A Jewish district attorney. They had an all-white male jury, 6 of which were Jewish. Heard before a prominent judge, also Jewish. Judge Matt, he was over the World Jewish Congress and leader of B'nai B'rith. Needless to say, the guilty verdict was a foregone conclusion. Marcus Garvey going to jail. And he issued the fullest penalty he could issue. He deported Marcus Garvey. And his program, even though there are people today who love and respect our brother, it could never recapture the glory that it had when its founder was here. Marcus Garvey died, brokenhearted, because he couldn't build what he planned to build. And the Jewish prosecutor, Maxwell Maddox, had the nerve to say he was more interested in Negroes than Marcus Garvey. Did you hear what I said? He had more interest in us than Marcus Garvey. What did he mean by that? What did he mean? See, Marcus Garvey's do for self or self-help. See, when you and I talk about self-help, that means somebody going to lose some money. And the person that's going to lose the money, they got a problem with that. They sending their children to school. That's their Hawaiian vacation and all that with your money. And you talking about now you're going to take your money back? Anybody that talk like that, they got a problem with it. Y'all all right? Well, we coming now. We coming to something. So this is Marcus Garvey in the 20s. Now we go to the 30s. Did you know in Detroit there was an all-Jewish gang mob? Y'all heard of Al Capone? Y'all heard of Dutch Schultz? Lucky Luciano? But you ever heard of the Purple Gang? They didn't tell you about that. All in Detroit. They ran the gambling and speakeasies in Detroit. 75% of all the alcohol that was smuggled from Canada into the United States came through the Purple Gang in Detroit. And they controlled the black gang, the black gambling, speakeasies, the numbers racket, all of that in black Detroit. They controlled it. They ran all of the juke joints, all the after hours. All of that was run by the all-Jewish Purple Gang. Now, this is not anti-Semitic if I tell you that the gang was all Jewish. If it's true, it's true. They were all Jewish. And it just so happened in around 1930, this human being comes to Detroit and sets up the first, thank you, brother, sets up the first temple of Islam in Detroit, right in the midst of the Purple Gang. He teaches our people about food, teaches us to clean ourselves up. Now imagine the Purple Gang, 75% of their business coming from you. Millions of dollars. And this man comes and he teaches 25,000. Imagine 25,000 stop smoking. That's a big hit for the tobacco industry, isn't it? Imagine 25,000 stop drinking. I ain't talking about no one or two. 25,000. Imagine if you ran the smoking thing, you ran the drinking thing, you ran the reefer and the narcotics, and all of this stuff is going. You're going to want to know, wait a minute, somebody is skimming, somebody's stealing from us. Then you go and check and find out that this man is teaching these Negroes not to smoke, not to drink. Who would be mad? Who would be mad that you stop drinking? Who would be mad that you not smoking? Who would be mad at you not hanging out at the after hours but going home to your family?
Come on, man. Make us think.
And instead of welcoming what he taught, they had him arrested and put out of Detroit.
That's right. That's right.
Now I'm coming to something.
Come on.
The way we see things and the way the enemy sees things, two different things.
That's right. That's right.
You know good, Ricky? The way we look at things, the enemy is always searching for someone who would change the way you behave. If the person who comes cannot change your behavior, they don't qualify to be of a threat to us. But if they change your behavior, now they bear watching. So they watch Master Farrakhan Muhammad. They watch the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Now the nation is on the radar because the behavior is being changed. One of the reasons that he said that I got one pants leg on already is because one part of his work had already been done.
Yes, right.
I'll go into that later. Yes, but this is 1930. Now they're watching. You get around 1942, a secret memo that our research department has found that the ADL leader Arnold Foster, he admitted we have no documentable evidence of any anti-Semitism on the part of the Temples of Islam movement or Elijah Muhammad. We don't have nothing to say that they are anti-Semitic. Yet, they watched the Nation of Islam anyway. And they arrested the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in 42. See, they had Negro spies. See, as always, there's always that they could use to say something. And they spied on the Chicago temples. And they took credit for it. And 82 Muslims were arrested because of what they did. Now that's 42. Now all of these things, now usually when the enemy comes after you, usually you break like a pretzel. You fold. But everything they did to the Nation of Islam, it didn't go down. They deported Marcus Garvey, his organization folded for the most part. They arrested the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. They chased him for 7 years. Or I should say he ran from enemies or hypocrites for 7 years. And then in 42 he was arrested. And the nation just got stronger. Just got stronger. So in 1959, I'm coming, y'all give me a minute, I'm coming up to this thing. But I got to give you this history now. In the Time magazine article, now remember 42, Mr. Foster said we don't have any evidence of anti-Semitism. But in 59, Time magazine, they accused the nation of being anti-Semitic. 1959, Mike Wallace puts out, who is also Jewish, puts out a documentary called The Hate That Hate Produced. 1959, the American Jewish Committee sent black spies in to watch the Honorable Elijah Muhammad when he spoke in Newark, New Jersey. That's right. 1963, the Jewish Chronicle of Pittsburgh labeled the Nation of Islam the anti-Semitic Negro extremist group known as Black Muslims. Now that's a name for you right there. What was the problem? See, in the Nation of Islam, we don't believe in picketing and protesting. In the Nation of Islam, we don't believe in begging others to do for us what we do for ourselves. So the Nation of Islam was a problem for them because we were taking money out of their coffers. So we got to stop this nation. But they never did. They plotted on the Nation of Islam, and in 1975, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad leaves. They plotted to destroy the nation. The enemy is smiling. They think they've gotten rid of the Nation of Islam. Imam Muhammad, his son, comes in. The son now leads the Nation of Islam into a more orthodox way of teaching. Yes, but there was just one man, Farrakhan. Yes. And this Farrakhan tried to work with Imam Muhammad, but at a certain point, there was a split between the two. I won't get into all of that, but the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, at a certain point in 1977, decided he was going to rebuild the Nation of Islam. Right. By 1977, what was known as the Nation of Islam, when you looked at what was in 77, it was totally different from what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had in 1975. We all right? Yes, sir. So I'm going to go to 82 and 83, but I'm going to bring up some points. Now the minister speaks. He starts rebuilding in 1977, and from 77 to 83, the minister is rebuilding the nation. Yes, but he does it in this, I'm going to use the word unique way. He stays underground. He doesn't come public. Minister Farrakhan lives in Chicago. Minister Farrakhan went around to almost all the prominent preachers in the city and met with them. And he asked them, now check this out. I want to rebuild the work of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. Do I have your blessing? And, you know, the preachers is like, well, he's asking for our, well, yeah, may God bless you to do such a thing. This is what he did. He traveled through all of these cities throughout America, but he stayed underground. He gave no press conferences, no interviews. And many of the press who knew he was building, the black press would ask for an interview, and the ministers would say no, and they started, in the words, jamming him, why won't you give us an interview? And Minister Farrakhan said these words, because I'm pregnant. I'm pregnant. Now you imagine a man saying to you he pregnant. That takes some understanding right there. So from 77 to 83, Minister Farrakhan hardly gave any interviews. I won't say that you won't find one or two or some, but for the most part, he did not give interviews. And then around 1981, Minister Farrakhan announced to the world that his teacher, the most honorable boy Elijah Muhammad, was alive.
Yes, sir.
He had a groundswell of support in the black neighborhood, but whites hardly knew he existed. Black people all over knew of the minister. How do you know this, brother? Because I was one of them who went to see him all the time.
Yes, sir.
It was the hip thing to do to go see Farrakhan. Because you want to hear somebody tell it like it is, you go and see Farrakhan. Farrakhan would lay it down. But a strange thing happened around 1983, 82, 83. Reverend Jackson decided to run for president.
All right, here we go.
Jesse Jackson said he wants to run for president.
Yes, sir.
Okay, run, Jesse, run. Go ahead on with your bad self. But not only did he say he wanted to run for president, this man, Jesse, had the unmitigating gall to go and ask Minister Farrakhan would he help him.
That's right.
And he asked the minister and the Minister Farrakhan, how long you going to stay underground, in words, and deny people the gift of what you have? I'm going to run for president. I want you to help me. Minister Farrakhan met with his national staff. They milled it over, if you will, and they agreed they would help Reverend Jackson. And one of the first things that took place was Minister Farrakhan registered to vote. Now, before then, the Nation of Islam and the Muslims, we didn't vote. We didn't take part in political process. But Minister Farrakhan registered to vote, and all of us who were in the nation registered to vote. Now, Reverend Jackson runs for president, but black people or black leaders would not support it. I want you to listen now. See, they just like Barack Obama. When he first started, most of the black leaders were not on board with President Obama. But as they begin to see and hear how he dealt with things, he grew, the groundswell grew. Well, Minister Farrakhan was going on tour with Reverend Jackson. The pastors did not know how to represent Jesse. But Minister Farrakhan would go in them churches and he would lay it out.
Yes, sir.
And the masses of the people began to cheer this Jesse thing. They started talking, run, Jesse, run. Run, Jesse, run. There was a young and an old thing going on. Because remember now, Reverend Jackson is a disciple of Dr. King. Minister Farrakhan is a disciple of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So for the first time, you got King and Elijah together. For the first time, Minister Farrakhan had the support of the young people. Reverend Jackson had the support of the seasoned, I don't want to say old people, but mature, you know. Now, for the first time, you will see the young people and the seasoned in the same room at the same time. And both of them cheering. How do you know? My uncle, I work for my uncle on a truck. My uncle is one of the seasoned people. He heard Reverend Jackson and Minister Farrakhan one day, and my uncle used these words. He used the S word, so I can't tell you what, use that word. But he said, man, that Farrakhan could talk some S, can't he? And I was laughing because that's my man. But my uncle, now he hears him, and he's like, wow. So the young and the old fired up. The black masses began to galvanize behind Jesse because they looked and they saw he literally had a chance to win. Yes, this was no token campaign just to do something, but Jesse really had a shot to win. But yet, while we were excited, they were upset. And they knew that they wanted to derail Jesse's campaign. But the flaw in the plan was Farrakhan. Because why did the black leaders not support Jesse? Because the enemy had already told them not to. See the termite statement? It's very prevalent right here. You do it in the darkness. They don't come out openly and denounce Reverend Jackson because that will cause you to rise up. If they publicly denounced him, you would fight them. But if they got your leaders to denounce them, you would walk with the leaders. So behind the scenes, they got all the leaders. Don't you endorse him? But here comes Farrakhan. They get into churches, and the pastor may not be endorsing Jesse, but all the people in the audience is endorsing Jesse. They go to the civic center and this place and that place, and all the grassroots people, as the scriptures talk about Jesus, the poor heard him gladly. So now the black leaders is looking, and while they trying to denounce him, the masses of the people is with him. So now just like with President Obama, if you stood up against Obama, all black people labeled you an enemy. You better not say nothing against Obama. Not around black people. That's it for you. The same thing with Reverend Jackson. So they had to go back and say, boss, this thing is bigger than us. We can't do it like this because these people are with him. And the common denominator was Minister Farrakhan, who was rallying the people to back Jesse Jackson. Now you come to August 1983, 20th anniversary of the March on Washington. Jesse comes to speak, 250,000 people there. Jesse running for president. Black people lit up all over the country. They come. But now there's this flaw in the plans. See, when you have a march like that and somebody else sponsors your march, they script how long everybody's going to speak. You come on first, you come on second, you come on third, then you come on, you got 2 minutes, you got 1 minute, you got 3 minutes, get on down. You hear them, usually when they talk, all of a sudden the music start playing. You know what I mean? That's time to go, right? Time to go. All of them was running. See now, you imagine now black leaders. You see 250,000 black people. You breaking your neck trying to get a microphone. Because you want to be seen as you really a serious somebody. I spoke at the march. The minister was there. Minister Farrakhan was there. Now I'm coming to something. All them speak. And Jesse speaks before the minister because it's getting dark now. Over 40 people speaking. So Reverend Jackson speaks first. Around the end, here comes this Farrakhan fella. He speaks for 6 minutes. 6 minutes, Dougie Fresh. He comes to the podium. Now, all the other mics is taken because black leaders is grabbing mics.
Yes, sir.
And the only one left open was the main mic.
Yes, sir.
And the minister had come to say that he didn't know at the time you wasn't supposed to speak at the main mic. You know, he didn't know that. So he goes to the mic, that was the only one available, and he starts speaking. And the minister opens like we open in the name of Allah. And he said, Assalamu alaikum. Yes. Then them 250,000 people said, now, they look at that.
Yes, sir.
Whoa. Move on. Then the articles start coming in. Here's a gentleman who wrote, he said, Mr. Jordan said, many who listened to the 40 speakers said the most inspiring speech was given by a lesser known figure, Louis Farrakhan, organizer of the New Nation of Islam. The New Nation of Islam, a black Muslim religious group. They didn't know nothing about us at the time. But the one that lit the whole 250,000, Farrakhan. He said it was Farrakhan, one marcher said, who gave him goosebumps when he spoke. He said a black postal worker and a black private business consultant said that Farrakhan said some very good things. For example, he told the diverse religious, racial, and ethnic groups that we cannot tolerate any longer these artificial barriers that divide us as a people. Now, while we cheering and we were excited about this, white America was upset.
Yes, sir.
Who is this? So David Broder of the Washington Post said, how can this man have this type of power and we know nothing about him?
Come on.
What power did he have?
Come on.
He just spoke. What sparked their attention is when he said Assalamu alaikum and all these black people said Wa alaikum salam. For while we were excited, they began to look at this Farrakhan. Who is this man? You know what they did, right? They got some black reporters. I want you to go around and watch that Farrakhan and see what's going on. The minister was lighting the communities up about Jesse. Then around November 83, the Jews put an article in the New York Times. And they called it Jews Against Jackson. Because Jackson is galvanizing the masses of the people, not just black. Jesse had Hispanics. He had poor whites. Jesse reached out to the Arab community. He had the Palestinians. He had all of them with him. Where do you think he got this thing called Rainbow Coalition?
Yes, sir.
Because he included everybody in his campaign.
That's right.
Jews Against Jackson. They placed an ad in the New York Times with a photograph of Reverend Jackson hugging Yasser Arafat of the Palestinian Liberation Organization. And they said, do you believe that any Jew should support this man? Should any decent American support him? They put this in the paper, in the New York Times. It went on to say, Reverend Jackson is a danger to American Jews, to the state of Israel, and to America itself. See, they're not scared to say Jew, but they have a problem if we say Jew. They put it in the New York Times that Jews against Jesse, but if I say Jew, I'm anti-Semitic.
Come on.
He said, we believe that he is building a coalition of malcontents who would be a disaster for Jews, for Israel, for America, for the free world. And we are afraid and we intend to act. What do you mean act? What you gonna do? We intend to pressure national political leaders, listen y'all, to openly condemn Jesse Jackson and cut all political ties and funds to him.
Yes, sir.
Look at this now. This is their formula. We're going to make you denounce and repudiate Jesse. Oh, well, they didn't start with the minister? And we're going to make you not give him any funds. That's what we're going to do. What's a malcontent? It's a person who is dissatisfied, a rebellious one. See, all of y'all are malcontents.
Dissatisfied.
See, you're a rebel. They call me a rebel, and for sure I say it's true. It's true. Uptown rebel. See, you're dissatisfied with the status quo. So you're dissatisfied with the norms. You the talent, they the agent. See, you the actor, they the agent. See, you the football player, they the agent. You die broke, they die rich. We tired of the status quo. See, why were they upset with Prince? Because they tried to make him a slave. That's why he put it on his face, slave. I write the music, play the music, record the music, sing the music, and you own the music? No, we're going to change this thing right here. They said, we will expose Jesse Jackson for the danger he really is. And they put ruin Jesse, ruin. You remember now we said run, Jesse, run. They said ruin, Jesse, ruin. Now look at this. The Jackson machine is more powerful than you know. And we must stop it. You can't stop it. You can stop it. Jesse Jackson is no good for Jews, for Israel, for America. Stop him. Ruin Jesse, ruin. The Jackson machine is more powerful than you know. Because when you pull all the people and everybody has a platform. See, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that his teacher said that unity is more powerful than a nuclear bomb. Right. And if you're an enemy of ours, then the thing that you need from us is disunity. Right. You need us to stay divided because as long as we are divided, you rule. Divide and conquer. But if we are united, all of a sudden we find out we've all been bit by the same dog. My wife worked at a Muslim school. I want y'all to listen to this. As they started coming, some are from Pakistan, some are from Africa, some from other parts of the world. As they began to talk, all of them had some saying about black. All of them had some saying that said you can't be too black. Now we say one drop of black blood, you know, all that kind of stuff. All of them had something. It didn't say it the same way, but it was the same thing. But the fact that they all worked at the same school and had a conversation, they realized, damn, what you said, that's exactly what they told me. Oh, that's what. And my wife would say, well, I wonder how all of us from different parts of the world got the same thing. Because the same enemy been among us all. But then the enemy gets them. The Pakistani hates the Iranian. The Iranian hates the one from Iraq. See, so we fighting each other, not knowing the enemy's in the midst of that. Am I making sense? Yes, sir. So Reverend Jackson, they said they're going to ruin Jesse. They're going to ruin him. And then in December, a man named Robert Goodman gets shot down in Syria. Oh, yes. Reverend Jackson says, I'm going to Syria to request his freedom. Now, Reverend Jackson is not a liaison for the government. Right. Ronald Reagan was the president. Right. Reagan didn't want him to go, right. But they couldn't stop him. And I believe that they allowed him to go because they wanted Jesse to fail dismally. Right. Because to be president, you have to have what? Foreign policy experience. So he wants to go to Syria. They didn't want him to go. Reverend Jackson takes a 14-man, some women, delegation. 14 people goes with him to Syria. And you see him right here in Syria negotiating with the Syrians. Al-Assad, who's the president of Syria now, his father at the time was the president of Syria. But also with Jesse over there in Syria is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, sitting at the table. In Syria, now this is the man that nobody, they don't know anything about him.
Right.
He's sitting at the table. So they said Jackson met with about a dozen religious leaders during his trip. Then they said at the beginning and end of each session with the Syrians, Syrian officials officials said a prayer. After every meeting, after the meeting, a prayer was said. Then they said, in many cases, Minister Farrakhan sang the Muslim prayer. In many cases, it was Farrakhan. You know, Jesse don't know how to say no Fatiha.
That's right.
But Farrakhan in Syria giving a prayer. And Jesse, they were arguing that this man, Lieutenant Goodman, was shot down and we got good reason to keep him. And Jesse never touched that. He said, I'm talking about a moral issue here. A moral issue, an issue bigger than the fact that he was wrong. I ain't arguing that he's wrong. Moral issue. So at a certain point, the Syrians decide to let the man go. Lieutenant Goodman was released. And so now, Jesse gets all the credit. But you're supposed to give credit where credit is due. Well, I'm not trying to take nothing from Reverend Jackson. But it wouldn't have went down if it wasn't for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Not the way it went down. Now I'm coming to what I want to show you. They said Minister Louis Farrakhan played a significant and vital role in enabling Jesse Jackson to secure the release of Navy Lieutenant Robert Goodman. Surely this would be a test for the ideas of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. The so-called Nation of Islam, or the so-called contrast between Orthodox Islam and the Nation of Islam could derail negotiations, put Lieutenant Goodman's life in further danger, and embarrass the United States and the entire African-American community. You got this pseudo-fake Muslim over here, and we over here in the real Muslim country. Let's see if this thing work out. The man said, the charismatic Farrakhan impressed Syrians, heads of state, imam, Muslim scholars, and true believers with his knowledge of Islam and ability to speak perfect Arabic. They said he led the Jummah prayer service with all the grace and eloquence of Bilal. Just laid that thing out over there. Now, I don't think the minister speaks perfect Arabic. I don't. But I think, hell, if you ain't never heard no Arabic, you like, man, Farrakhan tearing this thing up over here, man. He is laying it out over here. And if you were Syrian, the fact that he spoke some Arabic, you're speaking their language. You're quoting from their book, Holy Quran. The Syrians are looking in, now they see that this potential presidential candidate, Jesse Jackson, has this Muslim in his stable. They saying this would be a good gesture. If this man wins, to have someone like this, Islam will get a better footing than it does with the former administrations of America. So they let him go. Now when they let him go, I'm coming to something. Now I've got to go back and tell you what Tom T.N.T. Todd said. This is the part that I want to get to now. Thomas Todd said that my personal opinion is that we wouldn't have been able to do what we did in Philadelphia, Chicago, New York, and the South without Minister Farrakhan. He said to assume Minister Farrakhan is on some lunatic fringe away from mainstream is not true. His influence extends far beyond the Nation of Islam. He went on to say there's no way we could have gotten Lieutenant Goodman if Farrakhan wasn't there. He said his influence extends to professionals. See, so because white folk didn't know, they act like he don't have no influence. But all black people knew Farrakhan. So he comes home. December the 29th, he leaves. He come home the first part of January. He wasn't over there a long time. 3 or 4 days, they get him. So in the Jet magazine, January the 4th, they come home now. The president got to welcome Mrs. Reagan now, welcome Jesse Jackson and Lieutenant Goodman to the White House. Because whatever diplomatic channels they were working didn't work. But here comes Jesse now. Now Jesse the man now. He got international crud, street cred. He got international cred now. But something else was going on. Something else was happening. So now at the meeting at the White House, also this Farrakhan.
Look now.
So I want to show you now. You see the Uncle Mr. Louis Farrakhan.
Go ahead.
Way over here. Look over here in the corner there. That's Daddy Bush, former CIA director, Vice President George Herbert Walker Bush. So now the minister's at the White House with 2 presidents. This Farrakhan that nobody know anything about. Yet, Daddy Bush says to Minister Farrakhan, so you the one making all this noise. His intelligence is telling him that if I'm telling you that they wouldn't have pulled it off in Syria without Minister Farrakhan, what do you think the ambassadors and stuff to Syria told the president?
Right.
It was that Farrakhan that pulled that thing off.
They know.
So you the one making all this noise. What noise are they talking about? See, noise, if you're a musician, you go in the studio and you record. They have a certain level that noise goes. If you go beyond that, it's called distortion. And therefore the sound is not clear, it's not right, it's not crisp. Distortion levels. So Negro leaders always stay in the comfortable range. See, but the Farrakhans and they go above it, they become distortion to them. And when they hear them, they know this is something different. See, it's like when you put your hand on the blackboard and you scratch at that sound. So for the enemy, that's what they hear. So you the one going above the noise level. You the one shaking them up all over the country. You the reason why black people standing with Jesse Jackson. How Negro leaders couldn't defeat you. Oh, you the one. You that dude, huh? You that dude. And you had to laugh and say, yep, I'm that dude. I'm that dude. I'm coming to what I want to get to.
Yes, sir.
To distort is to give a misleading or false account of something. To twist out of shape. So if you flip that, and they've already gave us misleading accounts. To be the distorter is to now twist their stuff back into shape and teach the people or the masses of the people the truth. So Minister Farrakhan is the distorter. The distorter of lies. He puts truth where truth is supposed to be. Now Jesse is so fired up, they go all over the country now. The people lit up. Reverend Jackson came back with Mr. Goodman. They registered thousands of poor people, thousands of white people, thousands of people for elections. Many joined his campaign. And they began to run for office in various cities. But at the same time, real death threats now come to Jesse Jackson and his family. They put dead animals at doorsteps of his home. They bombed his headquarters. See, this is real. People went to jail. 2 of his campaign headquarters was bombed. And then Jesse sued and asked the government for CIA, Secret Service coverage. And the government denied him. even though they had the evidence of people bombing his headquarters and going to jail, the Secret Service said no. Here come that flaw in the ointment again. So Minister Farrakhan, being the kind of man that he is, he put the mighty FOI around Reverend Jackson. Now, this is awesome because, now see, this is not something that I heard. I was there. I came in the Nation of Islam in '83. I saw this. Back then, you could go straight all the way on the plane. See, all that security stuff they got there, they ain't had that back then. You could go in the airport all the way to the plane. And you know how the FOI rolled. That's our first general order. When we came to the airport, we went to the plane, went on the plane, and got Reverend Jackson, took him off the plane, him and his family. We was with him from the time he was there until we put him on a plane to his next city. Then we put him on a plane to the next city, we called ahead and let him know he's on his way. So when he got to Philly, they did the same thing. When he got to New York, they did the same thing. When he got down to Miami, they did the same thing. Now I want you to look at the psyche of what's going on now, young and old. So here's a black man running for president that got black security around him. Suit and bow tie, black men all around him. I want you to look at what that, now all of our people and what our people see. We talk about we can do it, we can do it, we can do what up you mighty nation. Our people was lit out. The sisters is cooking. And hey, I'm telling y'all now, little side note, don't leave here. Y'all getting some of that food back there. Just letting you know. If I was you, I should have said that because they might get up and run up and get pressure order in early, but I would. So now Jesse has this kind of security. And now our people are loving what they're seeing. Unity. Here's a Muslim securing a Christian. A non-hog-eating Muslim securing a hog-eating Christian. I want you to see what this is, man. This is a powerful moment for our people. Our people feeling strong now. We're going to do this. Jesse going to win. He won campaigns. He got 3,282,000 votes. 18% of the primary votes. He won 5 primaries and caucuses. Jesse was dealing back then. Now, you remember now, we didn't have social media, Facebook and all that back then. And with all that, Jesse was dealing. Don't take this lightly, or don't give or not give Reverend Jackson credit. I got to tell you, if you study this, there would never have been a Barack Obama if it wasn't for Jesse Jackson. I'm just telling you what he did. Jesse, when Minister Farrakhan tell you he's one of the most brilliant men we have, don't sell that short. That's real talk. That was a bad brother. His only flaw was, like Barack, he believed in this. He believed in this. See? The difference is, we ain't like that. We don't believe in this. So now all this is going on. Reverend Jackson comes back with Mr. Goodman. They are threatening him. Well, Minister Farrakhan is no punk. We don't go that way. Minister Farrakhan is not a politician. So he don't know how to, you know. My wife said lie. Just say it so correctly. You know what I'm saying? See, in politics, you don't call a person a liar, even though they're lying to you. You say that he's fabricating the truth or something. You say it. Where we from, they say, you're a liar. You're a bold-faced liar. Add a few more adjectives on that lie, you know. So February February 1984. Minister Farrakhan is speaking. He says, now, whether you know it or not, anytime a black man stands up with justice in his mouth, his life is on the line. So he's defending our brother now. When Jesse decided to run, Jesse decided to put his life on the line. And it's unthinkable that we should let our brother go down into the valley of the shadow of death and we say, watch Jesse run. Look at Jesse go. This is Minister Farrakhan. He said to him, it's unthinkable that we should not go down with him so that we may go up with him. And he starts talking. I'm saying to the Jewish people who may not like our brother, it is not Jesse Jackson that you are attacking. When you attack him, you attack the millions lining up with him, and that just is not wise. Now the minister's dealing now. Because, you know, where we from, we don't take no lip off no bartender. I mean, I shouldn't. Well, so I'm going to get in trouble on that. That's the one they're going to use right there. He said, we know that blacks and Jews have had a good relationship in the past. He said, we've gotten along well because you're a suffering people and so are we. But my dear Jewish friends, you must understand that everything comes of age. He said that you have to sit down with our brother. See, why don't you sit down with him like intelligent people and talk with Reverend Jackson? He said, look, we can't let you harm him. He said, now if you harm Reverend Jackson, it is the last black man that you will ever, now that's Minister Farrakhan, the last black man you will ever harm. I warn you in the name of Allah. He said, we're not making idle threats. We have no weapons, not as much as a penknife. But God is backing us in what we say. See, if you want to defeat Reverend Jackson, defeat him in the polls. Mr. Farrakhan said we can stand to lose an election, but we're not going to lose our brother. That's what he said. That's February, I think the 24th or the 25th, 1984. February 27th, 1984, Nathan Perlmutter, now calls, or he's of the ADL, says that Minister Farrakhan is Black Hitler. Called him because of what he's going after them because they are bombing Reverend Jackson's headquarters. And he's going to defend his brother. So they call Minister Farrakhan Hitler. See, they tell you Farrakhan called Hitler a great man. But they don't tell you that they call him Hitler first. Right. Which is that coded language, that what you call them dog whistles to Jews. When you call somebody Hitler, you letting all them know, we got to watch this dude right here. They called him Hitler. So then the minister comes and he defends himself. On March the 11th, he defends himself. Mr. Farrakhan says, and I'm going to hope this plays.
Here the Jews don't like Farrakhan, so they call me Hitler. Well, that's a good name. Hitler was a very great man. He wasn't great for me as a black person, but he was a great German. And he rose Germany up from the ashes of her defeat by the united force of all of Europe and America after the First World War. Yet Hitler took Germany from the ashes and rose her up and made her the greatest fighting machine of the 20th century. Brothers and sisters, and even though Europe and America had deciphered the code that Hitler was using to speak to his chief of staffs, they still had trouble defeating Hitler even after knowing his plans in advance. Now, I'm not proud of Hitler's evil against Jewish people, but that's a matter of record. He rose Germany up from nothing. Well, in a sense, you could say there's a similarity in that we are rising our people up from nothing. But don't compare me with your wicked killers.
Well, they say, now, Farrakhan called Hitler a great man. So you heard what he said. He wasn't praising Hitler. He said, well, in a sense, you could say, you could try to make the comparison. It's a stretch, but you could say, because we're raising up black people, that we are similar. But don't compare me to a wicked killer. But to drive it on further, he said these things, these words. Why would we tolerate this? I've been among black people as a teacher from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad for nearly 30 years. I'm well known by my brothers and sisters who are scholarly. He said, I asked, why should we submit when a white man calls one of our black brothers a Hitler, that we don't rise up and take them to task? See, they won't play this part for you. He said, you wait for Farrakhan to defend himself. Why would we sell it? Why don't you, as scholars, you know this is a lie, but you won't stand up and defend your brother. And I've defended you all over this country, but you won't defend your brother. They didn't want you to hear this part of what he said. So now they run out. Farrakhan called Hitler a great man. Now, somebody could be in great pain. I saw a fight last night, and the man did a roundhouse kick in the abdomen, and the dude went down and did not get up. He was in great pain, but great wasn't good. He was in pain, but it wasn't good. Great don't mean good. But why would they single him out when their own people have said such of Hitler? Mr. Pat Buchanan, one of my favorite white people. You know why? He tell the truth. He honest. He not for your advancement. And he admit to such. I can respect that. He said Hitler was also an individual of what? Great courage. A soldier's soldier in the Great War. A leader steeped in the history of Europe, who possessed oratorical power to awe even those who despised him. Now he laying some stuff on Hitler now. But Hitler's success was not based on his extraordinary gifts alone. His genius was an intuitive sense of the mushiness of character flaws, the weakness masquerading as morality that was in the hearts and statements of the statesmen who stood in his path. Yeah. Yeah. But they didn't take him off TV. He's on TV right now. Right now. He's still on TV. With all that he said about Hitler. Why did they attack the minister about Hitler? The self-help program. They had a goal. They have to disconnect or separate Minister Farrakhan from Reverend Jackson. So now the minister goes. This is in March. Around May, Reverend Jackson and Minister Farrakhan parted ways. 1984. I believe that Reverend Jackson, and I may be wrong, but to this day he may believe or feel that some of his chances of winning or doing better was because of Minister Farrakhan, who wasn't political. See? So he could think that. But I also believe, this is me talking, that he would not have been as successful if it wasn't for Minister Farrakhan. He would not have been. But Minister Farrakhan, Jesse couldn't ride him. He couldn't break him or tell him what to say. So in around June, Minister Farrakhan says these words. Reverend Jackson is in Cuba. He says, now that nation called Israel has never had any peace in 40 years, and she will never have any peace, because there can never be any peace or structure on injustice, thievery, lying, and deceit, and using the name of God to shield your dirty religion under his holy and righteous name. Now they put in the paper, Farrakhan called Judaism a gutter religion. Now, he didn't say gutter. Now I'm going to ask you about this after I make this point. Reverend Jackson comes back, I think, the next day. And they tell him what Minister Farrakhan says. And this article here says that Reverend Jackson now, he repudiates and denounces Minister Farrakhan. He said, I find his statements repugnant and morally reprehensible. He finds these statements. And the minister talked about those who established the state of Israel as an outlaw act. Now, we could prove every word of that to be true. They took the land from the Palestinians. There's no argument over that. They did that. But I'm going to make a couple of points here. The enemy always divides and conquers. Now, at this juncture, the goal would be for Minister Farrakhan and those who love him to argue and fight with Reverend Jackson and those who love him. And then we would fight and kill each other. And the enemy goes scot-free. Divide and conquer. So now Reverend Jackson repudiates Minister Farrakhan. First thing the media come and run to the minister and said, Reverend Jackson just repudiated you. What do you say? The universal snoop. What do you say? Minister Farrakhan said, I think every black man and woman in America should vote for Jesse Louis Jackson. See, messed him up with that. Messed him up. You're not going to say something because he repudiated you? He said, that's my brother. If I got something to say to my brother, I got his phone number. I know how to call him on the phone. I'm not going to tell you in the media if I got something to say to my brother. They didn't know what to do with that. They wanted him to lash out against Jesse. Then we would lash out against Jesse. They killed Jesse and blame us. That's what they do. Same with Barack. Same thing. They wanted to get us involved. So Minister Farrakhan, being the wise man that he is, he stopped the whole nation from speaking. That's a hell of a move, man. That's a chess move if I ever saw one. So you in this meeting now. For the whole year that our brother was running for president, only one person in the Nation of Islam spoke. I wouldn't be speaking. Just webcast, you would see the screen, but it would be somebody in Chicago speaking. And they would handpick every week who was going to speak. One at a time. So only one person spoke so that no one could mess up and say the wrong thing. As one of our brothers almost said the wrong thing. But they would go out and use what we say, even if it's in sincerity. They would put some gas on it. You know how they do. And cause the divide and conquer plan. See, So now we at this point, Jesse leaves, the minister leaves, Jesse loses. He loses. It goes to 1984, he goes in, he tries to negotiate some things at the convention. He goes in and get a few things, black people are outside. If I'm not mistaken, this was the one in Atlanta. If I'm not mistaken, they were crying because they wanted Reverend Jackson to rise up and boycott the Democratic Party for the way they were treating him. The gentleman that won, I should tell you, you know Lieutenant Goodman, who Reverend Jackson rescued, he endorsed the white candidate, Mondale. That's true. That's true. He endorsed Mr. Mondale. And so Mondale was the leader. And like most parties, when you get, Jesse got 18% of the vote. Most parties, you go in the room, you negotiate, and one of them dudes come out as the vice president. Right. Mondale chose Geraldine Ferraro, a white woman. Think he gonna get the female vote. They just literally dissed our brother. Now, public enemy number one is no longer Jesse Jackson. Public enemy number one is now Louis Farrakhan. So even though Jesse is over, now everything they got, they bring it against the Nation of Islam and Minister Farrakhan. They put all of their top media on him to try to check him and filter him. See, some of us, we think that we can out-talk them or we can prove something to them. They already know who you are. And they know what you know. They're not fools. But when they talk to you, they're looking for a way to sift you. They're trying to find out what your weaknesses are. We have data, tape. And I think it's on YouTube now. When the Honorable Elijah Muhammad sat Malcolm down, the government came and began to speak to Malcolm. How did they know he was sat down? And then they came and they said to Malcolm words like this. I mean, you got to feel some kind of way being set down at the height of your career like this. See, they feed your stuff, see? They in here now talking to you like that. I don't know why he picked that brother to be in charge. So you put Jerome over there. Why you put him over there? See? You let Rodney do this, you let this one and that one. They mess with your ego. Because human beings have a natural inclination to want to express what God has given them. Everybody wants to do that. And you don't want anybody in your way stifling you when God blesses you to express what you have. But if you express what you have at the wrong time, it's out of season. Why did the minister not do interviews for 7 years? Because his teacher told him, remember, brother, a seed always sends a root down long before it sends a shoot up. Why does the seed send the root down first? Because once the stem comes to light, all of the elements that are going to fight it going to come after it. And if it's not rooted, it can't withstand the natural blows that's coming after it. How did you get here? You are a seed and an egg with your mother that went down the fallopian tubes into the uterus, but before you got here, you had to bury yourself in the womb of your mother. Why? Because the natural forces of her body would fight you. And if you didn't get a firm resting place, as the Quran says, you wouldn't be here right now. So the minister didn't do any press conferences. He built the base of black people all over the country long before they knew he existed. When they found out about him, he already had a support base. He studied Malcolm. He saw the mistakes and the flaws. Malcolm was a brilliant man, but he made mistakes. Would you agree with that? Yes, Malcolm wasn't perfect. He made mistakes. And those mistakes cost him his life. So you're not dealing with petty people. You're dealing with wicked people that don't want to see you grow. Now we're on part 2. The next thing we're going to talk about is all of the things that Minister Farrakhan has done, attempted to do, that every turn the Jewish community stopped him. I want to show you. Why would they stop him? Because they would lose money at every turn. This is real talk here now. Why did they come out? So now Jesse's out the way. And from that day, 83 to now, they've been attacking Minister Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam. And a group of Muslims got together, because we kind of sick of this. And they put together these books that you see here, that you should get. Right here. The secret relationship between blacks and Jews. We're up to volume 3 now. And there's another volume coming that's going to knock their socks off. And all of this is information of what they said about themselves. Took credit for things. Did you know that Dutch Schultz is Jewish? Yes. Now I think Luciano is too. These gangsters. And they make you think it's the Italians. If you go look at the movie, I think the movie is called Mobster. There was a Jewish brother and an Italian in the room. And the Jewish member convinced the Italian man that you should be the one out front. Let me be the one in the back. See, in The Godfather, it was the Godfather. But the man that was doing all kind of stuff was Hyman Roth. So they make you think that everybody else is the culprit except for them. So now you have Judeo-Christian society. That's what we say we live in. But did you know that the Judeo part of this Christian society don't believe in Jesus? No, they won't tell you that part. Now the Muslims believe in Jesus. Jews don't believe in Jesus. They don't believe Jesus is even a prophet. They talk about his mother like a dog. And now overseas, they had a conference just recently, maybe 2 weeks ago, where they said they're going to highlight scriptures in the New Testament and call these scriptures anti-Semitic. They have this. You can go online and read it. They put a book together that they want all of these scriptures highlighted to say that these verses of God are anti-Semitic. The Quran says they think that every hue and cry is against them. So now it's war. It's on. You're not going to get out of this without a fight.
That's right.
I don't care if you're in the nation or not. You ain't going to get out of this without a fight.
That's right.
It's on.
That's right.
The Quran says when fighting is mentioned, you see their eyes go back in a swoon. Can we all just get along? They beat the hell out of Rodney King, and he gonna say, can we all get along? What you think about that? It's on now. And it's for the life of our people. The salvation of us as a people. Minister Farrakhan is not wrong. He's on his job. His job is to make Satan known. So to this day, you believe Satan is some pitchfork wearing, tuxedo wearing, got some wings, turn into a bat, fly around and, Yes, you do. Yes, that's what you think. That's what you're looking for. Then he come back, he's a human being. Got you spaced out. Hell, you just as bad as the children thinking Santa Claus coming down the chimney that they don't even have. And you forget the part where the book says that he disguised himself, masqueraded himself as an angel of light. He makes you think that he's other than what he is. So the Jewish community always make people think somebody picking on them. They're always the victim in a situation. If you go online right now, they murdering Palestinians hand over fist. Murdering those people. And they have things where they say one fingernail of a Jew is worth 1,000 Palestinians. That's how they think. That's how they think right now. So you come back. I'm going to show you the next, we're going to go into all of the things that Minister Farrakhan did. And how at every point they tried to stop him. We call it the Nation of Islam has been put under sanctions. I'm not going to stop there. We're going to show you how they're actually going to go after God himself. That's why your Bible calls them the synagogue of Satan. That's why. They're going to go after God himself. That's why it's on. Minister Farrakhan, I'm going to close. To them and to this world, he represents a dare. He's God's dare to them. I dare you to mess with my man. And as long as Minister Farrakhan is in the world, he is the light of this world. He is. Praise God before Allah. Ain't no space cadet coming for you and me. We're going to have to roll our sleeves up and take care of some business. That's the long and short of this. You're not going to get out of this. We're not going to get out of this without a little throwdown. There ain't going to be no singing. We shall overcome. No, ain't no more of that. Ain't no more of that. And I said I'm going to close. But I'm going to say this. That's why our young people are the way they are. See, God is working. When you look at them, don't me and you, when we shake our head when we look at them, their pants down to their knees, tattoo all the way up to here. Right? They ain't scared of it. You can call the police, they don't care about none of that. They don't care nothing about none of that. You shake your head like, man, I ain't never seen nothing like this. These people something. They'll cuss you out in school, on the job. Won't they? They would take your car while you in the car. That's cold, man. I mean, when I was going, they wait till you park the car or something. You know what I mean? They in broad daylight, you could be at the stop sign, 10 cars behind you. They jump in and take the car. They something. But what we overlook is the warriors that God is making. See, they warriors. And they have no fear. See, none at all. No fear. They get on stage and cuss everybody out. Call it rap. You ain't writing no checks like these. N-word, please. You know, they something, man. They put a beat behind it, and it's hard. They're God's warriors. They're his warriors. They're his warriors. They just don't know who to fight yet. So since they're warriors, they fight each other. Trust me, these are God's warriors. And they represent all of our people. From the time they brought us here, they represent them. They ain't gonna play with it. When it's time to throw down, they gonna throw down. They ain't scared to die. But not only that, they ain't scared to take a few with them. If it got to go that way, hey, we're gonna make it even Steven up in here. Right or wrong? So next time you see them, know who you looking at. You looking at God's warriors. And when they line up right, and when he called them to attention, it's all over. See, it's all over. So brothers and sisters, I thank you for listening on this part. I hope that we said something that will benefit us all in our growth and development. I don't want you to just listen, but I want you to go and study this. I was telling my wife, the more you study this, the more I see the brilliance of Reverend Jackson. That's a brilliant man. Don't you sell him short in what he did. That man was cold. He threw down. But he loved this. Just like President Obama. And all that he did, he loved this. And he think he could save this. Where we are now was America could have been saved. As the Bible says, Babylon, but she wasn't. Because she's not willing to do right by you and me. So just know that. All right? So I'm going to take a question or two. I know we have brothers and sisters here from out of town. I want to thank Brother Student Captain Anthony J. and the staff for our regional training that we had this weekend. Got good reports, Brother Anthony, but I didn't get one from you. I want to see what I saw his thumbs up back there. It was good?
Well, the conference is still going on, Brother Billy, because L4 is still in the city.
I didn't know that.
Strike got delayed, so, for council.
So we're still on conference mode, okay? But I want to thank all of those who traveled from near and far to be in Memphis with us. As a matter of fact, some of our brothers and sisters are here. I think there are some from Kentucky that are here. Louisville is here. All of those brothers and sisters who are here from out of town that are visiting us, would you all please stand and let us see you? Let's give them a round of applause. They're here. Welcome to the city of Memphis.